Hi, I'm Rose Frasca. To my grandchildren, I'm known as Nonna. And these videos are for my grandchildren. I want to show them how to make some Italian dishes that my mum taught me. My mother and father were born in Italy in a little village called Martini, right down the south of Italy. Very poor region. So basically they had to use ingredients that they grew in the garden. One of the very first recipes that all Italians will learn is red sauce. Well, we call it red sauce, but it's pasta sauce. Right, so these are the ingredients that we need to make our sauce. The main one is the tomatoes. I use tin tomatoes. I'm going to use about 3 tins of these. And if you want to get the last bit of tomato juice out of there, just give them a rinse with a little bit of water. We're also going to use a little bit of tomato paste. I'll put that on my tray. And we've got some of the seasonings. There's onion and garlic. We've got basil, parsley and oregano. We're going to chop these and get them ready to put into the saucepan and cook the sauce down. Alright, so we chop the onions nice and fine. They don't have to be too perfect. Just put them aside. And I'm also going to show you a little trick I learnt. If garlic gives you an upset stomach, you slice it in half and you take out the shoot. That little part there, and you can just see it on this one. I have to cut it in there, and you can just see the shoot. Just take it out, because that disagrees with a lot of people. All right, chop that up finely, and we'll get that ready as well. So now we're going to take the onion and the garlic over to the stove, saute that very gently, and then I'll come back and get the other ingredients. I like to use a heavy base saucepan like this one. Put the heat on low to start with. Good drizzle of olive oil, and you can put the onions and the garlic in straight away. Right, we don't want to burn it, that's the main thing. Just very, very gentle heat, just to cook it down till it's transparent. Now, while they're gently cooking, I'm going to go back and get the other ingredients. Let's take everything over to the stove. I can put that on top. Put the tomatoes. Here we go. Alright, the onions and garlic you can see are starting to become transparent. Just keep stirring them, make sure they don't burn. Now when we put the tomatoes in, you can see they're quite whole. You can squash them with your hands like that, or you can use potato masher. Just break them down a little bit before we put them in. Okay, we're going to put the tomatoes in. Just be careful, they will splat because they're cold going into a hot oil. Give that a bit of a stir. Alright, you can turn the heat up a little bit now because we do want the tomatoes to boil. I'm going to add in about 2 big teaspoons of tomato paste. I'm going to add in a stock cube. That's optional. Stock cubes I just find give it a little bit more flavour. And I also use a little bit of stock. Again, it's just off the thing, about a cupful. Right, bring that to the boil. And then we're going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. Good pinch of salt, probably 2 pinches of salt for this amount of tomatoes. And a little bit of pepper. Of course, our last fresh herbs we're going to add in. We've got our basil, oregano and parsley, and if we need to add more we can do that at the end. When it comes to the boil, you need to put a lid on it and simmer it gently for at least half an hour, but we'll come and check it and make sure it's been reduced. Hi, welcome back. Our red sauce or pasta sauce is cooking slowly on the stove. What we're going to do now is make some meatballs to put into that red sauce. Really yummy. What we need is ground beef, ground pork, some breadcrumbs, egg, parmesan cheese, salt and pepper, parsley and a little bit of onion. You don't have to use the onion if you don't want to. I've already chopped the onion and parsley really fine, and now we're going to mix all the ingredients together. Okay, for this amount of beef I use about 1 cup of breadcrumbs, maybe even less. But what I like to do is add a little bit of water to the breadcrumbs, just so they become soft. just mix all that up. So we put the beef, the pork. You will have to use your hands for this one. Just mix it up. The breadcrumbs. The parsley and the onion. And just give that a good mix. Now we're going to add the egg. Always crack it into a bowl first. Put that in. And I put about half a cup of Parmesan cheese. Add in a little bit of pepper, not too much, and a good teaspoon of salt. Right, give that a really good mix. Now that we've mixed the minced beef and the minced pork, you can see it's a really nice soft consistency. We're going to roll it up into little balls. I always have a little bowl of water handy just to wet my hands. That stops the meat from sticking. You grab about a tablespoon, a little bit more of the mix, and just roll it up into little balls. I just wet my hands between each one. Alright, towards the end of the mixture, I usually like to make some baby meatballs, and you can just leave them in the sauce. Sometimes the kids, especially young kids, they like the little tiny ones, so you make really small ones like that, and they can go in the sauce as well. Alright, we're just about ready to put them in. Always be careful of the steam that comes off. Have a look at the sauce. Now what I use, if you see any lumpy bits, I use a potato masher. Just squash them. Just to get rid of any lumpy tomato bits. Like that. The other thing that I do is I always taste the sauce at this time. It's good. So now I'm going to add the meatballs. Be very careful when you put the meatballs in. Again, it will splat. So gently pop the meatballs in one at a time until you've got them all in. Don't worry, they won't stick. We just put the little ones in. Now very gently with a wooden spoon, just give it a slight stir. Very gently. We don't want the meatballs breaking up. You can see from the line on the saucepan that the sauce has been reduced. So that's really, really good. We want that. Now, we're going to simmer that on a low heat for about another 30 minutes. If you don't want to add the meatballs, you can use the red sauce now straight away to put on your pasta. I've checked the meatballs and the red sauce and they're just about ready. So, just before we take them off the heat, we're going to cook the pasta. The pasta is dried, ready to cook in some boiling water. Now you need a lot of water when you're cooking pasta. I add probably about a teaspoon of salt, maybe a little bit more. I'm going to cook enough pasta for about 3 people. So I'm going to need about that much for 3 people. We never break the pasta, we always leave the pasta long. Pop it into the boiling water. As soon as it softens, use your wooden spoon to stir it round. But make sure the water keeps boiling. Don't turn the heat down. And just keep stirring. We don't want it to stick. Some people add oil to the water. I don't think it's a good idea because what we want at the end is that nice starchiness so that the sauce sticks to the pasta. There we go. If you want, you can put the lid on at an angle. That keeps a lot of the heat in once you've stirred that around. I put the wooden spoon there, put it at an angle, but I do keep an eye on it. It will boil over. I've checked my red sauce and my meatballs, they're all cooked, so we're just going to leave them to rest and I've turned the heat off. The pasta is now cooked. It's always a good idea just to try one strand of pasta. Careful not to burn yourself. It's what we call al dente. So it's got just a little bit of bite left in it. We've got our colander ready in the sink and we're going to drain the pasta. Always be careful. Just carefully pick it up. Give it a little shake. Sometimes you can just put it back in the saucepan if you want. And we're now ready to mix it with the sauce. We're going to put the pasta back in the saucepan, just like that. And we're going to get a little bit of sauce from our meatballs. Always be careful of the steam. And we're just going to add a little bit of sauce to this pasta. So just move the meatballs aside. Put a little bit of sauce in there. Doesn't matter if you get one of the little meatballs. Then we're going to turn on the heat and just slowly cook a little bit of that red sauce through the pasta. Now we don't want this cooking too long because we don't want the pasta going soft. But as you can see, the sauce is just coating the pasta nicely. Now I'm going to get ready to serve up and we can have a taste of it. Alright, I'm just going to take out the meatballs. Some people like them on the side. Right, we're going to get our pasta into the serving bowl. A little bit more sauce on the top. There we go. And for decorative reasons, we might just put a few little meatballs as well. So, let's go and try it. Spaghetti with meatballs. I put a little bit in my plate. Oh, it's lovely and hot. There we go. And if you want, you can have your meatballs on the side. Now, I always like to put a little bit of Parmesan cheese on the top. Buon appetito! Delicious. Brings back lots of memories, and I hope my grandchildren enjoy this as much as I did.